You've been pulled over, or maybe an officer walks up to you. They ask to search. Should you say yes or say no? Does it make you look guilty if you refuse to consent to search? Hi, I'm Jeff Hampton with the Hampton Law Firm. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about that. I have people ask me all the time, if an officer asks to perform a search on me or my car, won't I look guilty if I say no? By the way, if you wait around to the end of this video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You've Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Okay, so you've been pulled over, maybe an officer walks up to you and says, hey, listen, I've had this happen to me myself. Officer pulls me over, maybe I'm speeding, and they ask me, hey man, do you mind if I search your car? Well, how do you feel? It's kind of an awkward situation. Should you say yes? Should you say no? Of course, you know, some people say, well, you should always say yes. If you have nothing to hide, you should always say yes. Well, be careful. What if you got other people in your car? What if you're not the one driving the car? What if you're a passenger in the car? What if you don't know all these people in the car? Or maybe you think you know them and you don't really know them. So what happens? Should you actually consent to that search? And more importantly, this is the reason why people consent to search all the time. They're afraid that it will make them look guilty if they don't agree to have that officer search the car. First of all, what happens if you refuse? If you refuse, please understand, you always have a right to refuse a search of your person, of your vehicle, or of any of your property if you want to do that. In fact, it's basic Fourth Amendment principles under the United States Constitution. Everyone has a Fourth Amendment right to be free from an unlawful search and seizure of one's property, and certainly to be free from that from their person. So the problem is, here's the reality of it is, police officers are always trained to ask you for consent first, okay? Because if you consent, they don't need anything else, all right? They can just be nosy, and if you agree to it, that allows them to do what they want to do. Now, what if you don't? Well, the police must now have a legal principle known as probable cause. They must have probable cause that a crime is or has been committed for them to be able to now move forward with that search. That means they have to know something. They can't just have, I'm suspicious of you, right? It can't just be, I got a hunch something's going on here and you need to let me take a look at what you've got going on. No, you do not have to do that. That is not anything that's legal under the law for that officer to be able to search your person. So the question becomes this, you refuse a search, what happens now? Now the police have no ability to search you, your vehicle, or anything else that's yours unless they have an independent evidence to establish probable cause of a crime taking place, and they have to tie that to you. Now, if they have no probable cause, what happens? I've seen this happen before. Somebody gets pulled over, the officer says, hey, let me search your vehicle, right? He says, well, no, I'm sorry, officer, but I'm actually in a hurry, and I'm not doing anything wrong, so no, I'm not going to give you consent to search my vehicle. And then the officer has two choices now. Either let you go, arrest you for what they can arrest you for, which is probably nothing in that moment. Or if they think there's like drugs in the car, now they have to call out a drug dog to see if they can do a search of the vehicle. And even in the process of calling out a drug dog to do a search of the vehicle, there is Supreme Court precedent that establishes it cannot be an unreasonable time from the moment they call that drug dog out. It cannot be an unreasonable time for that delayed period for that drug dog to appear. So my point is, it makes the police do their job. And it makes it more difficult for them to just run over you and try to claim you've done something wrong. So you absolutely have a right to say no. And if they have no probable cause, they must let you go and they must no longer continue their efforts under Supreme Court precedent. Now, what if they search you anyway? Because this is what people say. Well, I mean, they were going to do whatever they wanted to anyway, so I went ahead and consented. Well, they may go ahead and do that, but it doesn't mean it's legal. It may be an illegal search and seizure. And now the worst thing for you to do is take away a tool in your criminal attorney's toolbox by being able to file a motion to suppress the evidence. And understand this, a motion to suppress evidence, if it's illegally obtained evidence, your attorney can file a motion to suppress, have a hearing in front of a judge, and it may be possible that if you win that motion to suppress hearing based upon illegal activity of that police officer, your case is dismissed. But I have talked to so many people who have said, well, I went ahead and agreed to have him search me or my car because he was going to do whatever he was going to do anyway. That might be true, but it doesn't mean it was legal. And if it was illegal, you could still win your case, okay? Now, if you consent to search, think about what happens now. There's this concept under the law that says consent cures all. And even if they had no basis to search you or your property or anything else, you gave them everything, especially if you're innocent. Now, what do I mean by that? One example that I remember is one time that we had a client that we represented that was a passenger in a car. He didn't even know what was going on, but the officer gets him out of the car and they start asking everybody for consent to search, right? So they start searching the car, they look through everything, they search him, they find drugs in the car. He agrees to consent to everything that the officers asked for, and then guess what they do? He had no part of this whatsoever. Other guys are quiet, they do nothing, and then our guy ends up being charged with it because he consents to everything, and as a result of that, he ends up putting himself in peril when he was absolutely innocent. He had no idea. Now, his case was able to be addressed favorably for him for other reasons, but it's really important to understand they may end up charging you with something they would have otherwise never charged you with if you don't stand up for those rights, okay? Make sure you understand that. Don't consent. You gain nothing with consenting. You risk everything when you consent. So here's the real question that people ask me though is, won't it make me look guilty? If I don't consent, if I refuse to let them search, doesn't that make me look guilty? Only to the officer, right? Only to the officer. Here's what I want you to understand. If you say, no, I'm not going to consent, you're going to need evidence to search me. That evidence that situation, you standing up for your constitutional rights cannot be used against you in a trial. Okay? And the general right is this. Look, your rights are yours, but they are only yours if you stand up for them. They're not the officer's rights, they're your rights. So you have to stand up for them and let the officer know you are exercising those constitutional rights. Because without probable cause and without consent, the officer is invading those rights in a search of either yourself or your property, okay? Now, point is, refusing a search is always a smart thing to do. Now, I promised you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Click through down into the text section of the YouTube video. I'll be happy to email that over to you. I want to thank you for joining us here today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll send you more great content just like this. Thanks again.